Welcome to the Chris Leak Studio Podcast, featuring unique stories from the visionaries that built this industry, as well as new and up-and-coming artists. Discover their stories as told by the pioneers that molded this amazing business. And now your host, Chris Leak.
In the 1970s, I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, before I left for Hollywood. And there was a band that was on the rise, and they were called Heyoka. And we all knew who they were because they were opening for major big artists. And they were opening big concerts and so forth. And so for me, having them on the show was imperative. So I welcomed them to come on, and we said, let's talk about the stories of the band, because people don't know how this all originated, that they were an organization, that they had management, that they had a light guy, a sound guy, things back then that you had to have to survive. Their crew and their family was part of how they launched their band. So instead of just getting the band members, they got the crew members and the management. And you could tell by seeing them as a young kid like me that they were really organized and on the rise. So this is Heyoka's story, or the details about it all started, how it all started, and where it went from there. So I wanted to get them on the show, and I welcome Heyoka. Well, I want to welcome into the show what I call, when I did this series, icons of the Texas music scene, and I consider these guys, Heyoka, to be that, just that. Iconic from my perspective as a young musician in Texas, because they set the standard for how to do an original band. And I want to talk about their origins, but I especially want to welcome them to the show, Val and Jordo. Hey, I think everybody.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having us.
No, it's just an honor to get you. You were I told Val, thank you very much, that you guys were on the top 2 list when I told my wife I wanted to do this. Like I said, Heyoka's the must. And so she's like, well, get on it. So I was like, on it. And I'm glad y'all are here and to talk about it. And I want to go back to the origins. You and I talked a little bit, Val, about you were with the band, and you and Jordan were in grade school, in a Catholic school, which was real interesting to me. So you two meet at Catholic boys and girls school? Was it co-ed?
St. Paul's. You know, he was there when I was
there.
Well,
just like a lot of these classic bands, you know, Black Sabbath and the Beatles, they all went to school together, and we all went to...
We were fortunate.
Catholic schools, yes. We're products of the nuns and...
Catholics.
Yes. No.
And so what year did you... So both of your stories, did you see the Beatles live on TV?
Well, that was the start for me as far as, like, knowing what I wanted to do as soon as I saw them. And I was lucky enough to... My father's youngest sister was only 6 years older than me. So when I was seeing that at 8, she was only like 15, 16.
And so you saw them, saw them?
She made sure I saw them.
I confess I did not care for the Beatles until later on did I really appreciate the true magnitude of
I
their
love
prowess.
the difference of these two. That's actually cool.
That's cool.
You know, I thought Ringo was lame. Then later on...
This prog drummer. No, let me tell you, he has chops, you know, and he had from the beginning.
You know, and later on did I realize... I said, well, okay. You know, so...
So
anyway,
they weren't as big of an influence.
They were the
exactly.
huge, yeah.
So it changes per each thing. So now you're in school, and you talked about this girl, Paula Thompson.
Yes.
You see her playing guitar in the corner of the
grade school.
Grade school, which kind of, you
grade.
said for you was a game changer, right?
But yeah, because as soon as I saw her back there, I noticed that all the girls in the class gravitated around the guitar, you know, so I'm like taking notes, okay. But the main thing was that she had already perfect, you know, chord changing in 5th, 6th grade, you know. She'd been playing for a little while. So she was the kind of like the pivotal influence on myself and Dito.
And Dito's a guitar player, Heyoka?
Yes. And he's still in contact. I spoke to him just last week.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and we're trying to keep in touch. He keeps himself busy right now.
So you're seeing her, and you're saying to yourself, okay, this is kind of, people are congregating around her, and so it kind of kicks off a trigger in your mind, and y'all separate in grade school.
He's at this time, he stays at St. Paul's.
I was actually in different school, Catholic school, that was part of the same sister organization. It wasn't until in, like, I think it was a freshman or a sophomore, freshman in year, because I was had played gigs for money on my little bitty drums And a guy in my class wanted to introduce me to his friends, which was Val and Dito and Mike, the core of Heyoka.
And who is the guy in the class?
Martin something?
Garcia.
Martin Garcia, yeah.
Martin Garcia.
Yeah, he would be our keyboard.
He's a doctor or something now.
Wow.
dentist. Yeah.
So anyway, I went over there and started playing with them, and it went from there.
At that stage, also, I want to point it out, during the formation of that time frame, we came across a lot of people who were going to, want to, I guess, audition or at least, consider being in the band, like Steve, who just recently passed away, our good friend. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't remember.
Talking about Dennis?
No. Dennis, of course, came in high school later down the road.
Yeah, later on he picked him up. He was from Antonia.
We had myself, then Dito came in, and then and we were playing with Homer Guerra at that time. But Mike Grothuse comes in at that 8th grade dance for Dito and Mike.
Right.
And basically what happened was Dito had already been setting up Mike to learn the songs that we were presenting.
But Mike wasn't singing.
Not until he saw that we didn't have a mic stand. We didn't really have a real mic. I told you what we were singing through,
it was
right?
Crazy.
And so he came up surreptitiously and ended up holding the microphone for me to sing. Now, what happens is we turn around and start another song. And when we started, it's, I think, I'm Your Captain. He starts
Grand
singing.
Funk.
He starts singing it. And I go, cool. I can concentrate on at least trying to make his voice sound right. Okay. But that was the start of him getting in it. And then by the end of that summer, Homer was going to get out. And that's when we were getting introduced to Gerardo through Martin. So
let's talk about the year. What year would that be?
73, 74.
No.
Yeah, 73, 74.
It was 72.
Well, no,
for
as
sure
far as
when
like
I met y'all.
We got together, 71, 72.
72, yeah.
At your dad's house when we got introduced to you. And at that time frame, that's right. Both of y'all were in the band for a second. That's right. We had this Allman Brothers thing going on with both drummers.
Oh, wow.
By the time it was all counted on, our very first gig kind of officially that got contracted was for Longfellow 8th grade graduation dance.
We played with 2 drummers for a couple of gigs. It was fun.
Yeah.
He eventually dropped out.
Yeah, that year. But basically, it was a keyboard player, Martin Garcia, Gerardo, myself, and there's Dito, and then there's Homer on the drums, and then we had another guitarist at the time, Raul Silva, also for that summer, I believe, and he played a few of the gigs with us. And then at that particular gig, I even had my sister and her friend back up singing, so there was 9 people.
God,
it was, and we
Bunch
had
of children, unsupervised.
Unsupervised, and we had to borrow the PA from an established band that we were kind of like mentoring off of. What were they called? Eastern Fleet. Yeah. You're not gonna remember this, but Eastern Fleet lent us their PA, So
which matters.
Yeah.
And I want to address that because see, in those days, PA was really important to a band to be able to play live. Yeah. What, Bailey?
Okay. Yeah.
Real quick, I need my phone, Alex, so if I'm texting him something, I can say something.
If you had a PA, you could be the lead singer.
All right, we'll keep going.
And that's what ended up happening. Mike got his parents to buy himself
Isn't that
casino.
funny how that really positions you in a position? But the great thing about Mike was he was a great singer.
Oh yeah.
So it's so funny. Why does your generation, especially you guys your age, you're a little older than me, but not by much, but a little. How come you guys find the best singers? Like you look at Deep Purple. Why did y'all form high school bands and every damn guy that you get in your bands could sing like a national singer? You know what I mean?
The age, the influence, the prog rock at the time, the construction, the arrangements, the landscape arrangements that we were exposed to, and Mike was he was the sponge. He absorbed all of that from A to Z. I mean,
Michael had
Gosh.
perfect pitch, and that's
Yes, that
I'll
was
just
the
leave
thing.
it at that.
His ear was tuned, and he could sing. He had
I've struggled to develop relative pitch, but Michael had perfect pitch.
yeah,
He seemed to have an incredible pitch.
yeah, yeah.
And when singers, there's 3 things that are most important. Number 1 is pitch. Number 2, pitch. Number 3, pitch.
And I don't think I ever heard Mike sing a bad gig. I mean, literally. I mean, the worst of PA systems, the worst of everything. I think Mike was just incredible live.
Presenting, yes.
But I mean, even his voice. I mean, you go hear
Yes.
some stuff and you just be like, "Damn, he's on pitch." Like the guy's like not off.
I got to see him develop from this real shy person into this powerhouse, and then he just picking up the flute. All these guys, they all were like, I can do that too.
We listened to a lot of Jethro Tull in those days.
Yeah, we were very influenced by Ian Anderson and the boys.
So I want to ask you. You had such a stage presence to you, the epitome of the rock star look. That's really was, right? Don't you think?
Right up through the 90s and almost the 2000s.
No, I'm saying he still has the look. But I'm saying no. I mean it. I mean you still you still do. But what I'm saying is no. I'm saying this in a way like you sort of were a symbol in the city. You were an incredible drummer. You technically were incredible, unique, distinguishable, and also just the fact that you had a vibe about you. You carried yourself in a certain way. The whole band did. But I remember in Jordo, you have this guy with this huge hair behind the kit. That normally they can't play. And so you get this guy that can play, and it's a showman, kind of like the way that you played was very interesting. I mean, it was had a show to it. It was very, very theatrical.
Back in those days, I was very young and impressionable.
I'd say
and I
he
would
was
try
our Renaissance man. He was our Renaissance man because he
play things that were well beyond my abilities. And I'd see these other drummers, and I'd see when they did something. Like I don't know who did it, but he played a drum solo. He walked around the drums. I said, I want to do that, And I'd see this other guy would play on his drums and hands, and I want to do that. I tried it once. It hurt too bad. But, I would try to emulate whoever was out there.
And didn't you have a chrome drum set at one point? You had a bunch of drum sets.
Yeah.
I remember you had a really, really incredibly looking chrome. Was it a Ludwig?
That was actually a Slinger.
Yeah,
it
it
had
was a Slinger.
2 26-inch bass drums.
Damn.
those long throws.
Even back in those days, I recognized that bigger is better.
Yeah, no, it is.
Does matter. So,
And now it's more like
Compact. But so now I want to go. That's what's important. So now you're basically formed in the first nucleus of the band. Let's just say that's. I want you to interject anytime you want with me. What were you going to say?
that would include Dennis Bonnet.
Yeah, we got a real good guitar player, Dennis Bonnet, that actually taught
He taught
Dito
He was
how to play. He taught me a lot of stuff.
When I met him, he was in high school already. I got freshman year, and he and Pat Hood were on the stage to introduce orientation, and they were just doing some chops back and forth. And I'm like, I'm going to be playing with these guys. I just knew that.
Yeah, you had a feeling.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, by the time we got to the 73, 74 time frame with Martin Garcia, we actually looked at Pat as a second guitarist coming in at one point.
Wow.
Raul had, and Dennis hadn't gotten in yet. That's right. But when Dennis saw that we were really kicking ass and everything, he jumped at getting in. He was already an established pretty much act at the time, playing around high schools, and we were going out to, me and Dito would go and see Dennis playing.
Got it.
And so eventually Dennis recognized and Dito recognized their cohesiveness, and they just made each other play like beyond.
Yeah, well, it's kind of two guys that are on stage, playing off each other. I remember that.
And then,
what were you going to say?
Hanging with Gerardo.
Go ahead.
He was the right foot that I had, like,
Gerardo's just
through our, I guess, exposure to all of these prog bands, from Mary Carl Palmer and Bill Bruford and all these, really amazing drummers. And so I'm hanging with him, and we're taking out these things that, like he said, were really beyond our capabilities at the time, but we were
Stretching.
yeah. No, we were really stretching.
And I want to ask right then, you were going to say something.
Go ahead.
No, you, because what I'm saying is
Gerardo
not
plays
important.
flute, keyboards, drums, and manners of stringed instruments. And
So you play all those things.
Well, I actually when I decided that I wanted to play music, I went to college
yep.
and became a piano major. Studied flute and studied all these instruments and everything in anticipation of hitting the big time.
Yeah. And his
Well, I like that you say that. You had that
he
attitude.
had writing skill too. He was able to
I learned how to read and write music, which none of these other guys knew how to do.
So I want to talk about, we've got the basic formation of the band, correct?
Right.
Just you can interject anytime you want.
Okay.
We have the basic. You're practicing, and I'm going to do a series of quick questions, almost like you're on trial. Where were y'all practicing? Now you have the band, and you know it's going to become. You're thinking, hey, this is something that, we got a singer, we got everybody in the band. Was the name of Heyoka?
yeah. No,
Okay.
we picked up on Heyoka from Dito's aunt giving us a deck of tarot cards that said Heyoka on it.
So at first we would practice wherever we could. We'd practice at his house. We'd practice in my garage. And my dad would come yell at us. The neighbors would come over. Everybody complained. Finally, eventually, when I graduated high school, we kind of ventured out and
got our own places.
we
There was
eventually
yeah.
was
Over
able to
off-
rent a
yeah.
couple of places. This one house on
We'd call it
Mulberry.
Heyoka House.
We lived there for about a year, and we'd practice actually upstairs. And Val would drag his big bass up the stairs and down. It was funny.
French
So you're practicing at different locations
within the same neighborhood.
within the same neighborhood,
Yeah.
but let's just say different locations.
Yeah.
You have a PA now, a little one.
And a sound engineer
That's fine.
built in from our best
Yeah.
friend who
We
grew
actually
up-
saw the importance of always having a sound man. That's what other bands, they never gave that.
Any
They
thought.
didn't have, but
Yeah.
we had somebody dedicated from almost day one.
Yep.
And that made a big difference. And
It
another
did.
thing that made a big difference is in high school, we met this other friend of ours, Ted Anderson,
Yes.
who was our lighting director. So we had a sound and lights, a
Yeah.
sound tech and the lighting director
With the
before
special
anybody had
effects and
one.
that kind of thing.
Well, you could see that in the band. It was, you could see that right away. Okay, this is great stuff. So you have a lighting and a sound guy. You're practicing. They're sometimes at the practice rooms with you, correct?
Yep.
Going through the show. Now, at this point, you're learning current material, and don't skip forward here. I want to get to you're learning only cover material or
No, we started working
We
on
started
original music
stretching
from day
originals.
one.
Yep.
So day one, you're working on original music.
Yeah, and as young people, we had the tendency of expressing adolescent physical behavior as we're, the first few songs. We're going to say, 17, 18-year-olds writing lyrics for, how can I say, the physical attraction of the female.
Yeah.
For, when we're kids, So, I mean, these songs were
A little immature.
yeah. What can I say? But we had.
So how old are you at this point? You're 18 and 19. You're going to study music.
Yeah.
Where are you during this time? Are you in college?
We're almost all of us are in college at the same time.
Okay, so you're in college. Mike's in college too?
No.
No, Mike didn't, and did Dito? No, I'm not sure.
Okay,
But
so y'all are-
Gerardo, Dennis, myself.
Are you
definitely.
working day jobs at this point?
On and off to a degree.
I like that expression.
Yeah,
You say.
and people get jobs, but not really
Work?
In high school, basically, we were concentrating on the fact that we had support from our parents
To do it.
most of the time.
Yeah,
most of the
So
time.
we had to play gigs to
Yeah,
eat.
and getting gigs was also interesting. I think if I remember correctly, there was a booking agent named Dean Bell at the time that got
I knew
us.
who he was.
Okay, he got us our first gig technically at Fort Sam Houston, but didn't tell us who the contact was. We just knew where we were supposed to go, and we played the gig set up and everything, but nobody ever approached us to pay us or anything.
So what ended up really happening is that we were already playing in our second house that we rented. We were practicing there.
Yeah.
We're working on original music. We're trying to play the most advanced songs that other bands at the time wouldn't try to play. We would try, like I said, we were young men trying to impress beyond our abilities.
Roundabout,
And so
Aqualung.
we got a call from, I think it was Joe Anthony or something like that, and they asked us, "You want to open up for a band at Randy's Rodeo?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't even know who the band was. Okay. So he got us a gig opening up for Rush, of all people.
Joe Anthony would go up to Canada and get all the
He
albums
was amazing.
and
So
promote it down here.
We're going to do a whole show with back, have you guys to talk about Joe,
And hopefully
the
Lou.
Godfather of rock and roll.
Hopefully Lou will be around too.
I know, Lou.
Yeah.
But let me. I want you to continue, Jordo, real quick. So you're learning these advanced kind of songs that challenge your technical skills. Let's just say at that age, or if not challenge them, make you shoot for something a little higher.
We're at
you
the very
stretch,
limits of what.
Yeah. And so you're doing this, and then Mike's coming along as a singer to perform these songs. Your sound man's locked in, which is cool. Your light guy's locked in. And now you get a call, Joe Anthony, quickly, but because I want to leave the Joe Anthony thing for later on, even when the podcast ends, I want to talk about him.
All good.
How does he get a hold of you, and how does he know you?
He had known us already, believe it or not. I met Joe Anthony a few years back, and
He was at the radio station.
He was at the radio
He was
station.
already promoting hard rock. This
So
was
74, he's with Rush. He's breaking the Rush first album.
Aerosmith at Joe Sayers Park.
That was, I want to.
We didn't play there.
Hold on.
No, but we
went.
Hell yeah, I mean.
And where was that park? That show was notorious that no one talks about that Aerosmith show. Everyone talked. I remember I was at the coast. My brother was going to drive back. Where was that damn show?
It's the South Side, basically going 35 South.
I forgot.
And it was in the middle of nowhere, I heard.
In the field.
Like in a field, they brought in Aerosmith in the middle of a effing field.
Yeah.
In a fucking field, they bring in this band.
These were the days, and then of course Joe Anthony FM and Joe Anthony came almost at the same time. The development of FM. So basically, after Kiss got on FM, it was no longer KMAC, and it was not only just 5 to 7. He was able to do the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah, and
so he brings in Aerosmith at this free concert. Wasn't it a free or no?
No.
By this
It wasn't
time,
free.
Here's the thing that happened. We ended up playing the strips around San Antonio, and behind SAC on Main Street, okay, there were several clubs
There
that
was
were playing.
a lot of clubs.
The owner of this one particular club where we were going a lot, it was called Eat It and Ball It.
Okay.
It was right there on SAC. We went to school at SAC.
Right behind Moody. And basically the owner, it turns out, is a family counselor by day and running this business, Ball It was the game, and Eat It was a little small shotgun cafe, okay?
So he already knew us because we would go play for beer and stuff.
Yeah.
But he came and saw us at the Rush show.
Well, he booked you on the Rush show.
Bill
Didn't book the Rush show.
No, not Bill.
No.
Joe Anthony.
Joe Anthony
did, but
No, what I'm saying, no, I meant Joe Anthony. So, but real quick, I want to stay on the Aerosmith thing. He throws that concert with Aerosmith. That's like 73, 74, right?
Yeah.
74, I remember that.
Yeah.
So he throws that concert. So he has this clout, let's say. He's got some clout at this point. He's got the FM station. He calls you for the Rush, opening Rush. You don't know anything about Randy's or anything, right?
No, all year long he's been playing Rush. Okay, and in my senior year, this was like the
he
senior
was playing
lounge.
the hell out of him.
That's what.
My
you're
God, it's all he played.
And then the next thing we hear is he's gonna bring him, and he approaches us, like Gerardo said. It's just
You want to open up for them?
yeah.
So you do. You take
And
the
so
gig.
we do.
Yeah.
And that club owner saw us there, and then and there he decided that he wanted to manage us.
We actually played at
He became our manager and helped us instrumentally throughout our development.
And that's who?
Bill
Bill
Angelini.
Yeah, I'm
played
real
at
close with Bill.
We played at his business. It was called the Eat It section. He had just a
This is
small
greatness.
stage. It was probably no wider than here. But basically, during the course of that particular show, Bill came to it, was sitting in the front row, and I leaned over to Dito and said, okay, see that box in front of you on your solo, jump up. And he does, He jumps up there and he starts playing the solo to Act One. And Bill's like, yeah, like this, and it just impressed the hell out of Bill. And he's like, oh, you guys are. And so at the end of that show, I just blatantly go up to him and say, man, would you manage us?
He says yes.
He kind of laughed at me. He's like, oh,
And so Bill's
Later on, he called me and he said he said
Yep.
yes, and
So
he was instrumental throughout all the years. After we didn't have a practice place anymore, we actually rehearsed at his house.
No,
in his
Bill's
garage.
great. I know Bill so
For
well.
years.
For
He
years.
instituted things like Monday meetings where we'd
Monday
go in
meetings,
and
yeah.
all rehash our
Get paid.
differences, because somebody was.
So that's interesting. I love how you say that. Your band had meetings, didn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
From a family counselor.
Thank you. Absolutely. So those meetings are crucial. And this is great stuff because the younger generation that I'm going to have watch this, because we get a lot of young cats through my facilities, they love looking at this stuff. And when I tell them stories, they say, well, what do you mean? And now you guys are on the air here in the podcast talking about it. You have meetings about which bands and people need to organize what it is you're going to do,
And
what you're going to
this
take.
time, Bill's a promoter.
Exactly.
And
He knows
gets
he's already
He gets this
established.
3-day gig, it's supposed to be a 3-day gig, 2 rock and roll and 1 country western on Sunday, out Somerset Road. You remember this? This was in the summer of after doing Rush. Yeah. 76, I want to say.
76.
And Somerset, he's promoted these 3 days, and only the 2 days got pulled off. The 3rd day never got pulled off, but it was probably a money thing. But they featured Navasota, Iron Butterfly. They had.
Oh yeah,
They
he
had
played with Iron Butterfly.
Yeah, and
wasn't
they
BB King there too?
no, Freddie King.
Freddie King. He tried
was
to
there.
sign my
And
girlfriend's
there was,
boobs.
Pure Prairie League. There was
That's a huge lineup.
the Electromagnets. I got real close with Eric
Yeah.
Johnson back then.
Yeah.
He still recalls those days when I see him. And it's the main headliner was Ted Nugent.
Oh, my God.
And he had just came out like gangbusters. He was doing Hibernation.
Yep.
And he started off with Hibernation. And
Oh,
we're
my
all just sitting
God.
tripping on his hand in a spotlight going, And we got to open up on a Friday evening when the lights were coming on after, I want to say, Navasota, something like that.
So let's talk about the show. Bill arranges the show.
Yes, he did.
Nugent's headlining.
Yeah,
Right?
They got him, yeah.
So they got Nugent headlining.
On
and,
Saturday.
And he's just come out.
It's got this idyllic setup with a creek out in the back, and you could almost like Woodstock kind of thing, for
I love it.
San
Now,
Antonio.
does Bill throw the show or get you on the show?
No, he's already managing us. He had,
No, but I'm saying he didn't throw this concert. It was already being thrown. Bill got you on the concert.
yeah, oh, definitely.
So
He
Bill
was
has
part
you
of
on.
the
Do you remember
promoters.
that show?
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
Because I was going to ask you one of my
I
questions.
had already loved Iron Butterfly because of that drum solo.
Yeah, I know,
Tried
right?
to emulate him, and I would always do drum solos because I
Yeah.
wanted to be like them.
But so you play this gig. You play 2 out of the 3 nights, right?
Right.
And so from there, it's evident that Bill's of value to you. Meaning
He'd already been-
you know it at that point.
We already had an
He'd already been-
established. We had a crew.
Yep.
By
That's
that
just
time, we
hilarious.
had not only the lighting director and the sound engineer. We had a full-time stage manager.
Yeah, Richard
to do
Ellis.
and then they would get armies of other people to help them out, but we had a full band lineup and a crew and a manager who had that when they were
It is unbelievable.
Yeah, we're 19, 20.
You're 19 and 20 and you're having this stuff go on. And the good thing, this is the funny thing that people don't know this, is that you could see that in the show. If you're a young guitar player like I was, you walk into a venue and you see the band, there's something different. The lights are sort of in sync. The sound was better. You could tell they had management. Something told you as a young kid, not even knowing what management probably was. I'm like, somebody's handling these guys. They're getting good shows. They're coming out of here. My brother started talking about y'all, and I told Val, he would take me to other shows, and I saw y'all one time, and I'm like, man, these other bands, they're not organized. And I already knew that at a young age, I already knew at a young age that there was something different about y'all. And so what you're talking about, setting that foundation up, is something that I noticed as a perceptive, insightful kid.
Our sound man actually made the cabinets. He was a constructioner, Lenny, and he would actually replicate folded horns and make the cabinets and then put the speakers
And then
in.
after Lenny left, he was replaced by Chris Fox, who was actually a whiz kid,
Engineer.
Scientific. Worked at, what was that place? Well, I don't remember, but he designed a complete sound system and built it.
Chris
You know,
Fox,
the lighting director, Ted, started off with a bunch of lights. Who knows where he got them from? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to go there. But then later on, once he used that, he started off and he started buying more parts. And then he learned about something in his science books, lighting a laser. Wow. Yeah. And then he goes and orders one, and he constructs this whole thing where
we figured out a fog
We had
machine.
a banner in the back, and he put a hole in it, and then he put the laser behind it, and it was like an eye.
Through a
the
PVC
eye of,
pipe, it would like filter
that's
down
in front,
fog.
Val. You're not letting me get to there.
You
He
gotta
would shoot it out, and it would come out through the PVC pipe, where we had another guy loading a garbage can full of dry ice. Full of dry ice.
You got to understand, they created this thing.
They just made it up.
But let's finish this real quick. Yeah. So he has a PVC pipe going through the banner, correct? Shooting through the banner?
in front of the lighting trusses.
Got it.
On the lighting
trusses. He's running that.
And there's a fog curtain.
I remember that. Yeah. This is innovative stuff. I mean, you think about it. This is very innovative for that time for a band that is local.
Back then, all they could do is figure eights and stuff like that.
That's right.
Later on, you'd get computerized laser, and you could have whatever you want.
Oh, and he'd incorporate the strobes, and then at points in the songs,
he put strobes and everything.
You know, especially
if you were a little high, which most of the kids were,
most of the time.
they were like,
So let's just call that the band had an incredible theatrical performance for a young band because of its crew, practicing with the light guy, getting to practice with the sound guy, having a sound guy be able to build speakers, right, and load them and build them and design them, and having a manager. So
also, we had good players. If we didn't have good players, these guys wouldn't have wanted to.
I can't even tell you how good you were.
At this point, I have to bring in Pat Hood. Would been the only person that I could think that would jump in the bass position where I was. He carried on in a way that could make anybody proud.
Yeah,
and he contributed in such ways lyrically and musically that projected Heyoka's idea of.
But Pat is after you left.
He was actually, like I said, we had approached him before I was out of the band as a guitarist, a second guitarist. So we were actually knowing each other through.
But did Pat join while you were in the band?
No.
Okay, so I want to save that.
No,
I want to
he
save
didn't
Pat.
get to make. He went into Overload. And
with Galen.
Yeah, exactly. And then he was structured as far as Overload, but as soon as I got out,
he went to Heyoka.
Initially, Sam Davis got in for about 3 months. I got back in for the following year, and then that's when Pat got in at the end of 76.
And I want to save for that. I want to save that because I want to stay back in this younger stage when you all were together. You here were sitting on the desk with me. Okay. So Gerardo, you and Val, you're playing these shows. And Bill's booking you. Now I start to see that y'all are opening some concerts. I know Rush at Randy's, but now you're opening some shows like a municipal, aren't you? Or like auditoriums.
Yeah, like you want to open up for
Moxie.
By the time I think it was Van Halen, they came. And that's when I saw Van Halen.
80s.
And he had 2 bass drums strapped together with leather straps. I saw that. I want that.
He wants a bigger drum.
So,
but you're getting these shows to open is my point.
Yeah.
There's Moxie. There's a lot of Judas Priest.
But I want to hear about this. Yeah. How is Bill getting the shows? So let's go back just a little bit. You're playing. Do you continue during this time to play just venues, clubs? Your show's actually bigger than the normal show around town, correct? Meaning you can't just go play some small little dive.
Right.
I'm just saying, y'all have a banner, you have your double kick 26-inch bass drums, you know, you're not going to go to a coffee house.
No, but there was sneakers.
But that was big.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, during the time after you're open for Rush, and Bill comes on, y'all are playing mostly concerts, or are you playing clubs as well?
Clubs as well.
Both. Yeah. Yeah. And not
Do you remember some of those clubs?
Oh yeah, I remember Dallas. What clubs are? Oh, Mother Earth in Austin.
Mother Earth.
We would go. I remember doing Amarillo at Fort Shepherd, I think.
But how about here? And that's incredible. He's already got y'all playing around Texas.
Well, yeah, no, that was the main thing, is we were getting around. I remember Conroe, Houston, and
Jeez. Are you remembering these days?
Yeah. You know, I remember the bigger shows a little bit better.
Because he was at that point carrying on from that point on. But at that point, where I was able to get those gigs under my belt.
So those gigs, Bill's booking still though, right?
Yeah.
And so Bill's booking these shows out of town, Amarillo, Dallas, Corpus.
Oh yeah.
And so those are the shows. Now, am I leaving anything out of that core origins of that time before you leave? That what's the as this lineup goes? What is the best show that y'all think you have with this lineup that's in front of me right now? Like, what was your favorite show that you remember the most? Was it the Rush show? Or?
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, the culmination.
Probably the Rush show for Val.
Yeah, that would be the last major show that I get to do with them. But basically, the following year.
You weren't with us when we did Van Halen?
No, but the following year is when we came up with the trilogy. And out at in Bernie.
What year would that have been? 76, 77, you're back?
76.
76.
Okay,
so
let's
76.
Okay, so hold on. I want to stick in this. So you're practicing, you're playing. I remember I saw you in Antonian Auditorium. So when Bill would throw these shows, he would rent out a place. From what I kind of remember as a young kid, I was very I had a good business acumen, so I was kind of like, he must be renting these places out. And I'm like, I wonder what it's costing him. I was just into this thing. I remember I saw y'all at Antonio on a Halloween night. You did this incredible show, a Halloween show at Antonian Auditorium, which Lewis is dragging me there, and I'm like, where are we going? And he said, we're going to go see Heyoka. I'm like,
Lewis,
at a school auditorium?
Louis Coronado.
And I'm like,
Louis Coronado?
Yeah,
that's my friend.
Yeah, and so he drags me to a show. I'm young. I'm jamming with him. And he's like, you need to go see this. I'd already seen y'all. But I was like, yeah, let's go. And so I remember going in the auditorium. You're throwing this massive kind of concert vibe.
The fog.
And the fog. Oh, God, it was hilarious.
The flames.
And it's a Halloween show, too. and I'm just like, goodness gracious, these guys are taking it all the way. These guys are all out. They're all on the. So what was the show that you remember? You said Rush.
Oh yeah,
So now I'm going to ask you, what was the show that you remember during?
That Val was with us?
Yeah.
Oh, probably Rush.
Rush. Mm-hmm. Was it a really great moment? Was that a good show?
It was. Complete with a riot and everything. People there was trying to get in. They broke glass to get in. They walked on people like the Who.
It was so full.
So full.
Yeah. They had people.
And he played their record every minute. Yeah. I mean, literally, Rush was like.
Oh, and that night they introduced 2112.
Wow.
They hadn't released it. They introduced it, and we were sitting there going, "Oh, God. Oh yeah."
I remember when they set up. We would take my drums and set them up on stage, right?
Yeah.
And then I went and looked, and they had his drums already set up on a whole big riser that they just picked up
and lifted.
Yeah. We saw that and we said,
That's what we need to do.
and so I didn't even actually see him play because I was so, but I was like, damn, that guy's good. Damn, that guy's good. You do another lick and
yeah.
I want to do that.
That was a good show because you're seeing up front what that drummer's doing there on the stage
and how they did it. After that, the guys built me. They put together a riser that was collapsible, made out of lightweight. I forget what the size they made it, and it would collapse, and it had the two top pieces, and I had that from then on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's framed so that it could collapse and go into the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now let's talk. Pat joins a little bit as a guitar player. And
No,
Pat was
he never did.
He auditioned. He was thinking about it. But
Okay, so let's just say it this way. Pat comes into the band. However, he gets in.
he was in there.
And you were already he's a very talented musician.
Yeah, man.
So he comes in the band, and so what changes from there? Like, what is you go from there on? Where are you then?
I go into other bands and just keep on playing myself.
Okay.
Because I had to get my head together, but
Right.
it was
And so how does? Yeah, exactly. You're trying.
I'm always still at the gigs.
Exactly.
And
You know,
supporting.
it's a family.
Yeah.
It's like when you grow up together, you always are kind of together because you're coming up together. So no matter how much you get it on or fight, you're kind of like family, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like it's a vibe. You're attached to something. So when Pat comes in, Gerardo, then what changes in the years that the 76 he comes in?
70, end of 76, 77, he's
in
77.
So what was the first thing? Pat comes in the band. Is anything any different? Do gigs get stronger because
we
Bill is now more
acclimate
The
to a
originals.
different level. He brings in a whole slew of songs that he had written, and he was content to let us do our songs our way and his songs our way.
he
You know,
just
we'd
wanted to put
rearrange his stuff, and he liked it, and we started growing a lot more with him. And then at the same time, we started getting a lot more. I can't even remember all the bands that we opened up for. Everybody from Steppenwolf,
Judas Priest,
Gentle Giant. I really remember that one
Max
was a lot
Webster.
of fun. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember Max.
Oh, y'all opened for a ton more than that. I remember.
yeah.
Like you opened for, basically y'all would open for
Yeah.
the arena shows. Y'all were always on the arena shows.
Yeah, so we did a lot of that. It was a lot of fun.
And so did Bill have some connection to get you those bigger shows?
Of course.
Okay.
Him and Joe Anthony
He
and,
would work it. Yep.
and all those people.
And so at this point,
They
Pat.
collided and colluded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bill is funny as hell. So right now, Pat's bringing in material that he's written, and then you have material that the band's written, right? And so you guys are writing your own songs, and the originals are becoming a big part of this band at that point, right? Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yes, and our goal was to record a record. We went into the studio. We worked on
I want
it
to talk about that separately, but hold on. I want to ask you who you're in the studio with. So let's go. So he's writing the songs. You're in the practice room. You laid it into it, Jordo. How do you walk into the studio? How many songs? Who engineered it? What studio was it?
I don't remember the first studio that it was. We played, and Bill brought in the horn section from Augie Myers' band.
West Side.
Yeah,
Horns.
and they put horns on one of our funky little first songs, and we did one of Pat's songs on the reverse side. I don't remember the studio. Later on, we went to UAR.
UAR on Horizon Hill.
And we recorded there for a year or so, trying to get all these songs down.
So how many songs do you think you recorded during that period?
Not a lot, maybe, a double album's worth, 2 or 3 albums worth.
That's a lot. That is a hell of a lot. So do you have? Did all that material get mixed and put together? Like, was it all finished? Did you get it all finished? Do you still have all of that material?
All of those were finished, and then later on we did another round of recording. Once there was some personnel changes, and Dito left and Pat left, and we brought in a different bass player, different keyboard player. They had songs. We recorded their songs.
Paul and Dean.
Yeah, at a different studio. Don't ask me to tell you what it was.
That's all right.
I can't remember.
But let's go back to that first record. So now you get a record made. You're on the San Antonio scene. You have a record. Was it a 4-song record? I think it was an EP or something. It was unique. It was it 2 or?
At one point, Dennis gets out, David gets in, and his sister has a lot to do with being the electric lady on Kiss, promoting Heyoka.
He's asking about the record, though.
But is the first record? I remember I saw it. It was like a single. It was a larger single. Like it was a vinyl, but it wasn't like a 7-inch. It was like a little bigger, wasn't it?
Yeah, like an EP. It
was an EP. Exactly.
Like that.
That's what I remember. And Kiss started playing the hell out of one of those songs. Not the Boogie song. It was another one. It was some other song that Kiss started playing.
It's all going to be all right?
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. That was probably it.
It's all gonna be. All
Yep. And then, so at that point, is Bill trying to get you a record deal?
Yes.
So he's talking to people in the record industry. How does it go during you finish this record? Kiss is playing it. You're opening shows. People know who you are. So people would think, "Oh my God, that's instant. You're on these big concerts. You can hand the record to the record label people that are with the other bands." So do you remember what the goal was? What Bill was working on during that time?
Well, I remember one time there was a contest in San Antonio, Battle of the Bands or something, and the winner got a trip to New York to showcase their stuff for Columbia or something like that.
The Sunken Gardens.
And we won that show, and Bill goes to New York. We did a special record on acetone for them and took it up there to them. And, of course, the studio heads, they were not impressed. That was the time of starting of the...
Video Madness.
No, that was the time of starting of all those new bands that
New
were
wave.
coming out.
The 80s.
I can't even think of their names anymore.
Ramones.
Billy Idol.
Ramon.
But
All
that was
of
that
that
late
stuff.
on. So like y'all were doing Sunken Garden shows too. You were in Sunken Gardens playing these.
That was that show.
That was it. But you were doing Sunken Gardens opening for bands, weren't you as well? Or
Yeah.
no? Yeah, y'all were opening for you were opening for major shows.
Right.
You mean
Grand Funk.
Grand Funk.
We did that.
I mean, it was like every time I had a concert, y'all pop up. If I went to see a concert, y'all, even if you weren't even if like you weren't announced, y'all would be on the show. Like at the last minute, you'd be like, "Oh, we got it."
Oh, I remember that when that happened.
2015.
Yeah, they were going to have
Majestic.
Crack the Sky. Okay, Crack the Sky, Crack the Sky. Last minute, well, Crack the Sky is not here. But we have Heyoka.
That's right.
That was at the Municipal Auditorium.
Yep, that's
I forgot what show that was, but
That's just awesome. So Bill's trying to, but Bill's trying to get y'all a deal with that recording because
he's
it's
actively trying to get us, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's just crazy because my thought was at that point these guys are going to get a deal. As a kid, I'm like, these guys are going to get signed.
I thought so too.
Right? You're sitting there watching.
Rah, rah, rah.
Rah. You're like, come on, this is like you got big shows. You're in a market. The promoters know who you are. The people know who you are, and the radio station, rogue or not, is playing your stuff.
Probably the closest that it came is, I forget the year, but we had a song called Video Madness, and we actually made a video here in town with some friends that owned a club called The Magical Spot. Yeah. We would go in there. We recorded the video there. You know, it showed us that the script was stupid. We walked into the thing. We were playing video games. Yeah. And there's girls there. And at the end, Mike blows up.
Yeah, Mike's at a video
but
game.
Then,
he looks and goes.
Yeah, he blows up.
Overalls on the ground.
And then they shot some live footage from someplace here in town with the bombs and the strobes. Oh, yeah. Then later on, in addition to the strobes and lights, he added these fire tubes. He had a light in the front of the drums that said Heyoka, and it had these fire tubes that would fire flames into the sky. God. The fire marshals loved us.
They really did.
But we did the video with all of that. We did the video. This is the early days of MTV. Yeah. With the first video, people, you know, they're still playing.
Submitted to MTV.
And they accepted it.
Yeah. For about.
Well, it ran for a month or so.
I saw it.
About a month.
Atari, who owned the copyrights to the video game sounds that we stupidly
kind of
didn't ask for permission to use.
Emulated in a slower version.
I didn't think of it. Bill should have thought of it. I don't know. We used the sounds of Pac-Man.
Right, and they
all
got
these sounds in there.
And then
they got me. They had it pulled. Yeah. Had they left that video on there,
it would have blown up.
Who knows what would have happened?
Exactly.
You know.
So Mike is singing. Mike is. I don't mean. Mike's singing. It's now the late. I want to go into the late 70s. The late 70s when I noticed that y'all were starting to open some darn big shows.
And that's when Alcacer gets in 79.
Okay. Who's that?
Dave Alcacer.
Oh, he gets in the band.
Yeah, Sec Personnel took Dennis's place.
So Dennis leaves about 70, 8 or 9?
79.
Yeah, right. Something like that.
And what does he do at that point?
Well, he goes into recording his own things And
I don't know. He got into this Christian thing, and you know.
And
how
so he leaves the band.
They look down upon us rockers.
Yeah, I know. So he leaves the band, and then who do they bring in? You bring in
David Alcacer. And he was another local rocker, very talented.
He was
young
very,
man.
very good at getting in bands that need a guitarist at the moment. He was in Straw Dogs, I remember.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Remember Straw Dogs? Yeah, that was a good band. And, basically, he was priming. I think it was our friend Arsenio who put it this way. It was prestigious to play in Heyoka.
Absolutely.
And so people line up to you. And remember Stevie Norman also.
I remember we had a series of auditions, and I brought in some people, and I had my idea of who I wanted, but in the end, they brought in David Alcacer without an audition, without even asking me.
Yeah. Well,
later on, I would kid him. I said, "I didn't vote for you."
You tell him that.
Poor David. Yeah, but I mean, it carried on, and all the way up to the reunions that we were enjoying too.
So I'm going to talk about those. I want to talk about a lot about the thing. So in the what year after the video MTV thing happens, is it the 80s come about, MTV comes about, and then the band does Mike leave the band?
No.
He doesn't
went on
leave.
our first big tour. We went all through Texas. We went to Louisiana. We went up Tennessee. We played in Chicago. We opened up for, who was it? Survivor.
Okay.
It was during those days they played that song. We're opening up for bands up there. We go into Toronto. We played at Gasworks. That's
Wow.
where Rush played.
Yep.
And we played Rush at the Gasworks.
Oh, my God.
We played there. We toured all the way through there. Then we toured, and then we went up to Montreal where nobody spoke English. And we asked somebody, "Y'all know how to get to Point Claire?" And they go, "This is." So they weren't very nice to us.
So during this tour, are y'all on a bus or a van? How are you traveling?
We had a big truck called Big Red.
Big Red with
the crew.
wings.
The crew. And then we had one of those custom vans, with all the tricked out with the little tables.
And is Bill's working with you still?
Bill, by that time, he had an office in San Antonio. Yes.
Yeah, he had his office in San Antonio. So y'all are out on the road doing all these dates. Is he booking all these dates?
Yeah, they had set him up, yeah.
And were you doing opening for acts, or were you actually headlining?
Well, we did mostly little club shows and stuff like that.
But you're touring all around America.
Yeah.
Up through Canada.
Up all the way up to Quebec. And that's about as far as we made it. And then some of these guys started, I'm going to go home.
The road.
The
road.
So we ended up
Family was
turning around and playing on the same club circuits that we played all the way back home. Because we only had money if we played. And so we made it back home. And then I think after that, Dito got married. Had we stayed on the road and continued playing, I have no doubt that's how these bands make it. They have the play till you die tours, and they go out and they play, and that's all they do. I go here, you go play there, I'm gonna play there. Okay, where you going next? And finally, eventually, something's gonna hit.
Some guy walks in from a major company, something
somewhere.
happens.
At this
a
point,
manager from a
Gerardo's-
bigger band comes up and says, "Hey, Bill, I want to work with you." So many things can happen out there on the road that you can't imagine.
Gerardo's
But
the
3
only
months,
member at
4
this
months
time.
was not enough to do that with.
Gerardo and Mike.
It wasn't enough to do that. So they
Say
came
that
back.
again. 4 months. You were saying what? I interrupted you. You said, I interrupted you. You said 4 months wasn't.
Before wasn't enough to do that, to get that kind of, we were just getting started. I mean, by that time you play on every night, you get tight. I'll tell you what, you get really tight playing all the time. Those songs get sharpened,
You
and
get tight and you know what's going to come next.
and but some of these guys wussed out. I don't want to mention any names, Dito. He came back and got married and then had a kid, and his wife was pregnant, blah, blah, blah.
What?
And,
Family?
and,
What?
family.
It happens.
We didn't have that many dates and blah, blah, blah. And,
I was having my kids, my brood.
so at that point, in the early 80, 83, 84, by that time, it kind of slowed down. And so there was this other guy named John Grell, who was very talented.
I love
guitar
John.
player.
Very close with him.
And he came and recruited the whole bunch of us, me and Mike and the bass player, to play in Winter Cat. And we played on his second
record.
Winter Cat
Yeah,
record.
that
We
was-
toured around with him, too,
Yeah.
for a while.
John.
And we did that.
But now,
Okay.
I know, because I love the heydays of this. So that is great stuff. And I didn't even know about those tours and that you go out there and you do that on the road. And the whining comes with the road. All the guys are like, oh my God, I'm out here. I'm not making enough. I want to be back in San Antonio. Why the hell fuck would you want to be back in San Antonio?
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to go
Oh
home.
my God.
I almost married a girl in Canada just to stay there.
Oh my God, I love it.
I did. I swear.
Story. I
You
didn't
know?
even know that.
I swore I'd go back. I never did.
So pre that, you're still watching the band from your
I'm working my own bands also. I mean,
no, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I'm
Try
saying
to.
you're doing your own bands, but you're also still like, hey, they're playing a show. I'm going to go check it out.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to go.
Whenever they were especially close by, yeah, you know. Sneakers was a lot of gigs that would maybe.
So post. We're going to talk about post Heyoka in a minute, but because I want to, what y'all have done since. It's a musical history. It's not just Heyoka. I'm addressing Heyoka because it's an iconic state of a duration of time, rather, for the local community to have a band like Heyoka. When you think about it, what did San Antonio have? Nothing like that. At that age, early 70s, mid 70s, even into the later 70s, no band was opening for those shows here locally, making a record and that's sort of an inspiration to younger musicians. And I think maybe y'all didn't know that, but when I talked to Trey Gunn, he's going to come on the podcast. He was in my band, and he's a famous instrumentalist now. He goes, "You're getting Heyoka on there?" And I was like, his response was so funny. I go, "Yeah, isn't that cool?" He's like, "That's awesome." So my point is, at the time Trey was very, he was more of an intellect, and I'd come up and say, "Yeah, you gotta go see Heyoka," and he'd be like, "Yeah, they're pretty good." But but we actually opened for y'all once at Blue Bonnet Palace. It was great. Bill would always book us, and
That was y'all?
Yeah, Blue Bonnet Palace. And so
I was
and Bill called us at 6 o'clock and said, "Can y'all come right now?" And so we put the crap in a convertible and ran out there, and it was burning up. I mean, one of those days at 102, and Bill's like, "Y'all aren't doing it yet. You got to put your stuff outside." And he always was very controlling. And so I was like, "Yeah, we'll do it." But it was actually an awesome experience. So during this time, y'all are doing a lot of hall rentals. Like Bill's taking out these venues, and he's putting y'all in them. That's just ballsy shit.
with promo.
With getting a radio. Think it. He goes and pays for radio spots. People don't know this. They're young musicians. They don't get it. He rents a place. Cost him $500-600 back then. What you think? $400 or $500.
Worked it into the budget.
Tickets,
Yep.
promotion, flyers, and then y'all throw your own concerts.
I'll tell you how that started. It was one year. It was around the time of Fiesta, and he went down to this club right there that was located right there downtown next to the Hemisphere Arena. La Via Fontana was what
Via
it was
Fontana,
called.
yeah.
And he basically asked the guy, "Can we play here?
Joe Boozer.
How much? You just let me, we'll play for the door." And so we did it, and he called it the Heyoka Fiesta Happening, put out flyers and a couple of ads, and the place just jammed, packed out.
Both floors.
I remember
It was-
we went to the Heyoka house, and we had like hatfuls of money. It was trying to.
Yeah.
And when he saw that, he went, "Okay, we can do this.
You can do it. You can throw your own.
We can do this."
You can throw your
Yeah.
own events, and people will pay and come.
Yeah.
I remember opening for Knit Singers right there at the Hemisphere Tower. And I forget
Okay.
what club it was, but it was next to it.
Starting to remember all the bands that we played
Remember
for.
Knit Singer, yeah. that gig.
Can't even remember.
The guitarist for, he was the guitarist for Blood Rock.
Okay. But the amount of bands you open for, I don't think I turned my head every fifth concert Orban had at the arena. And maybe every fifth, sixth concert, or municipal, or all the venues he was doing, y'all would be on one of them out of 5.
Jack Orban.
Right? I mean, I can remember it being so regular. So the record goes out, and does he get into,
Actually, the record never got out.
Okay.
It just
It
became a
never got
compilation.
out. That was a hitch. We did all the thing at one time. Around the time that we did that tour, we had this one guy that was putting some money into us. He paid and had me and Mike and Gito flown to Atlanta, where we were in a big-time recording studio. In fact, while we were there, the bass player was from Aerosmith was there walking his dog.
Tom Hamilton.
Yeah.
God, I can't remember the name of it.
And so you go there
And we remixed our record,
okay.
And brought it back. But to put out a record, the artwork, all of that stuff costs a lot, He was never able to actually sell it to anybody. And so it actually never got put out until many years later when I had a guy come up and say, okay, let's do this. I'll pay for everything. And he paid for the record. I actually have LP, very beautiful LP. I'll get you one.
Rich.
I really want one.
An LP, there's very few of them. I'll get you one.
And the reason I also want one is to not only show it to the people that are going to watch the podcast when we release these series of the Texas Icons, but just to show people, younger people here, that this is what you had to do. This is how far this band went.
So I have the LP, and he made CDs too. The only thing we were ever to put out is that little EP, and we did out some cassettes and stuff like that. But
That EP was everywhere. That was all in the stores.
It costs a lot of money to do that. That's basically what happened. We came back from that tour. Dito was kind of wussing out, maybe kind of lost a little bit of his, So we replaced Dito and with a couple of other guys, and then we started doing the same thing. We were opening up for Night Ranger and Laredo and doing all these other things, But it didn't seem to have the same magic that did with the first guys.
Absolutely.
And I have recordings of that days. There's some songs on the record that have some of those recordings, not on the CD.
Right.
On the record, it's like a double thing with the fold out and the poster and the different colored vinyl.
And somebody approached y'all to do that. He just came up to you.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh, this is like 2003, 2004, something like that.
And so, who kept all those recordings? Who was able to keep all that stuff so y'all didn't lose it?
The technicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
The UAR guys.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Technicians, lighting director, and those people.
Those were the very original songs that we wrote that year, '76, called the Trilogy.
That's on.
And how many songs were on it?
3, I guess, if you wanted to call
Technically,
it.
yeah.
It was a trilogy,
Right.
But it was a 20-minute opus thing,
It's awesome.
Well, that's on there.
So let's talk about Mike and leaves the band as well.
He never left the band.
No,
He never left the band.
No.
So he was singing commercials, or he was doing. How was he living? Like he was playing in the band, then what was he doing aside from that?
Well, he worked for his family's.
Yeah, his family business.
Okay, so he never left the band. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought he was went into commercial singing or something. And then he died in what year?
11.
Oh, he didn't die till like 2012, I think.
11. I think.
And how did he die?
It was right after Belinda, so.
He got some kind of blood. What do they call that when you get septic or something? He had something that was very treatable, but some people are stubborn. They refuse to go to the doctor.
Liver dysfunction.
And something blew up, and then he died.
It was probably very painful.
Yeah, something very treatable.
So he just didn't. He wouldn't go to the doctor.
He was kind of funny like that.
Full of fear.
Really?
Like I said from the beginning.
I'm a big baby. I'll be crying.
Me too. I'll be the doctor in 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Just missing him. But yeah, no, he didn't do anything.
That Pat eventually died from complications of his diabetes. First he got sick, and then he broke his foot, and then it never healed, and then he cut his foot off, and he's walking around like that, and he's taking all these pills, and he ended up
He would still come out to gigs though and get on stage, with his cane.
But unlike the other members, like Dito got his own business established, I eventually, found a business and I'm still doing it, something. And, he was never able to get up on his own 2 feet. He was always having to live with a woman, which I've done that before. There's nothing too bad about
We're talking about Mike.
No, Pat.
Pat. My bad.
Yeah.
He's never able to get established on his feet, have his own home or something like that. Once his marriages blew up, he was, So eventually he died at, some friend of his house that, it was kind of sad,
And how old was he when he died, you think? Or what year was it?
That was
It's about 10 years ago at least.
14.
16?
16.
Yeah, I think it was 16.
16, yeah.
So Mike's was easily, Mike could have avoided death.
Oh, yeah, easily. Had he just gone to the doctor and been treated for what it was that he had.
Oh, okay.
He always had some kind of gastric thing going
Okay.
like this. But
And so,
it wasn't just drinking. I like to drink
but
as
that
much as the next guy, but
didn't help at the end.
no, it never helps, you know.
so
In fact, I'm...
what?
I think,
No, tell me. No. You can tell your stories here. Just teasing.
I'm jonesing for a beer now.
There we go. So let's talk about, and technically, I mean, when you think about it, Heyoka never really broke up.
No, because we had a series of we would get together, even after we formed with Wintercat, which is, they were all Heyoka players.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, except for John Grell, because we had the two new guys that we brought in, the bass player, Dean Vallecillo, and Paul Therrell, the keyboard player, and then Mike and I,
Yeah.
you know, which was, and then they insert John Grell, and now it's Wintercat,
Got it.
you know. And then I remember then we were playing at Sneakers or something, and then they got a Heyoka reunion there. We did that.
Yeah.
Remember, John was mad. But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
That's the way it goes.
Later on, they would ask us to do reunions. We did a couple at some of those. Are they Fiesta events? I think we opened up for.
At this time in the 80s, I was playing with Dito in a band with Paula Thompson while they were doing these reunions too, and ended up doing double, gig, second win, and then going to a reunion.
Roaster Cult we played with.
Oh yeah,
And then we opened up for Grand Funk.
Grand Funk a lot.
Yeah. This is later on in the
2000.
after the millennium.
That was 2006, right?
Right. But because it was later on past that. But Mike is still singing at that
Mike
point.
is still singing. We even did a reunion post Mike after Mike died. We brought in a singer, JT.
Right. This was a 2015 reunion.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me about.
Brought him in. He actually played flute too and everything.
This was a really phenomenal find too, because I think it was Carol, your wife, who saw a CD with JT holding his hand up like this, and he had no beard and he had hair just like Mike. And she was like, when she opened it up, it said he's a flute player, and then
That's crazy.
yeah, and so I think it was Carol that alerted us to JT, right?
Now, we've done a couple of shows with him. We did one in 2015. I think there was another one
2017 at Sam's.
17, and then there was another one where he opened up for the Legs Diamond,
Yeah, and with Killer Dwarfs.
Killer
wow.
Dwarfs, and all of those people.
Yeah, that was at Vibe on Commerce.
And so let me ask you kind of a question. Of the entire career, in your answer, not the career with Val, what was your favorite all-time show? Even if it's a small venue or a club. What was the favorite show that you well, let's put it this way. Which one you most have the most vivid memory of?
If you can remember.
Well, we're going to grab it out of him.
What say
Judas Priest was always fun because by that time some of these other bands I didn't really know who they were, blah blah blah. But Judas Priest, we were already playing their stuff. I knew who they were,
Right.
And
Very influential.
they invited us to their room to go party with them afterwards. I didn't go. I went with a girl.
I'll tell you one thing. I saw y'all play "Victim of Changes" by Judas Priest in '75 or 4 or 5, maybe 6. And you played it better than they did. I'm not joking. And I'm not blowing any hot smoke up your ass. Literally, I left there and I called my buddy. I'm like, I swear to you, I saw Priest. It's better. It's like, it's better performed, better sing. Everything about it was better.
The Two Bitter Days in San Marcos.
Yeah.
Really?
Club Two Bitter, yeah.
That one stands out in my mind for some reason.
That stands out in your mind. And then even though it's not really fun, what's the lowest point you remember of the band?
Me?
Yeah.
Well,
You seem like an upbeat guy, so it'd be kind of hard for you to.
yeah, my memories of the band up to my departure, of course, that would have been my low point.
That's true.
But I don't recall
many lows.
No. I remember some challenging moments, you know. I mean, only because, like Gerard says, we were young and impressionable and playing beyond our, you know, or at least trying. But I remember one gig, somebody had slipped me a hit of acid, and it was before the gig. And
Is that the time that you couldn't remember the songs?
oh no, that was a time my bass was going like this.
Oh, God.
Rubber band, and I didn't want that to happen, you know. But it was
Similar
like,
thing happened to me in
somebody
Baton
stuck it in my-
Rouge. They said, do a line. I thought it was like Coke or something. It was like some PCP.
PCP, yeah.
You know, and I was
Bad
trying
shit.
to play, and you're trying to play Aqualung, ba da 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 da, da bum bum ba da da bum ba da bum, but it was coming out like ba da da.
Yeah, slow motion. Oh
The
God.
thing that saved me was that the whole audience that was there, they were on PCP too.
Oh, my
so they couldn't
God.
tell.
That's not right.
But I was punished for that.
Back in the day.
They left me asleep in the van, and they wouldn't let me drink for a couple of weeks. You know.
Well, I can't imagine. You know, Sam Kendrick was here yesterday, and he said there's a chapter in his book when he went on Willie's bus, and they thought he was smoking pot, and he smoked PCP, and he calls the chapter "I Saw the Devil."
Nah.
It literally, I think it
That
made him.
stuff is
sounds
nasty.
right.
He said he made him stop hard drugs. Never. I mean, well, none of that stuff again.
Yeah.
But my point is that he said I literally saw the devil. I had pus coming out of his eyes, and I was like, goodness gracious. And he goes, "You believe me?" I go, "I believe you."
Yeah, but
And
none
that
of
stuff-
us ever did that. Or
Yeah,
anything.
none of that. No, y'all were pretty.
We were kind of scared.
We had plenty of
Yeah,
opportunity they would offer us,
We're
and
not
we'd be
even
like,
scared.
Well, that was smart. And the fact that your roots were so together as a young. Now, Mike didn't go to the school y'all went to, correct?
yeah, he
No,
did.
He did.
He went to Antonian for the first 2 years with Dito.
Did y'all go to grade school together?
Yeah, in St. Luke's.
St. Luke's, and then they went to Antonian, yeah. And I was at St. Paul's, which is a sister to them, and then Central Catholic. So
I had gone to St. Paul's with him the first 4 years.
Some
and then
Catholic
St. Luke's.
boys.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Catholic
Getting
boys.
together
I'm a
for.
recovering
That
Catholic.
explains it all, doesn't it?
I'm a
You know?
Catholic. I'm a Catholic.
You're
So,
active or recovery?
no, I'm a Catholic.
I'm a Buddhist.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good.
No, I'm your
So,
homie.
so don't shake your head.
It's
so,
all
so
good.
my point is, but the origins of it. Now, I want to go through where was there a moment in the band where you thought to yourself, "We're gonna make it"? Like you had this, you know,
A lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
A lot of them.
A lot of them.
From the very beginning.
I firmly believed all the way
felt it.
through,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. Even the beginning of the 80s and
Once
everything.
I was hooked up with him, that was the feeling.
That,
Just-
right? Because when you get it, isn't it when you get a really good drummer, the feel? No, seriously, when you get a really good drummer, it's like when you build that house and you stand on these. God, man, this sound feels solid.
Just locked in.
You know, you just feel like you're on solid ground. The drummer is so crucial to the band. I
Yes, it
mean, to me, it's just like it's when we do studio session stuff here. When all these artists come in, I want to do a song with you guys, and who's going to be the drummer? Who's doing the drums? That is all the first question. I swear to you, I don't even say, "Let me hear the song that we're going to produce." Who's playing drums? Our drummer. Can we hear him? What do you mean? Put him on an iPhone. Let me hear him play. Oh, hell no, we're not doing that. That's not the guy. But you're right. So it gave yours is I have a solid drummer who wants to make it. Who isn't the drummers that I'm going to go get married and have 5 kids and leave at 18. He wants to make it. From what you said, I love some of the stuff you said when you're out on the road and you're like, I want to stay on the road. I want to keep going. And how about your moment when you said, I always thought we were going to make it, right?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I regret is with the technology we have today, it's everything available. But back in those days, there was no technology. The first I heard of a click track is when they put me in the studio and they put the click track on. Okay, stay with it. Yeah, and I could not stay with it. It wasn't until years later that I was playing in a band and they used the click track to synchronize some tracks that I learned how to stay on it mostly. And then later on in another band, which I was doing a recording project, they had me on the click track 24/7. That I learned how to play with the click, behind the click, on top of the click, to stay with the click. The click became your friend. And I still use it these guys don't like it. The
I
click
love
track
it.
nowadays.
I
but
love it.
Yeah. The click is my friend. I love the click. I can play with the click day and night.
But your point is well taken. You're saying back then the technology was so you just played. So had you known I don't mean to interrupt you. Or is what you're saying, had I known what they could do now back then,
I would have actively pursued that and perfected it.
and just think of a band like Heyoka, who had their own light guy, seriously, their own sound guy. When you all start this band, you're 17 and 18.
Yep.
You have original songs, had recording on a laptop. To think they could drive an interface to their practice room and start recording, you guys would have been putting stuff out like wildfire. Then you can actually distribute it as well. So you could be sitting at your house recording you on YouTube. Hey, who is this band from San Antonio? They're opening big shows. I'm at Capitol Records. Who the hell are these guys? And I'm going to go down and see them. They would have been on a plane in 5 minutes down to see you. No, they would have.
Technology was not available.
In the nascent days of the hard rock capital that we
It is San Antonio was the hard rock capital of the world.
It just the technology was like prehistoric compared to now, and you had to do everything on your own from click one. Yep.
Yeah.
Recording was
was a process. You had to pay $100 an hour back then. Because if you wanted to go in a decent studio, you couldn't. The studios were more then than they are now. Isn't that funny? You're in the 70s and you paid $100 to go in a 24-track studio, or $90 plus the engineer if you wanted somebody good. And then you had to press the vinyl, master it, send it out, make artwork without computers. Mind you, you scraped on little letters for the lettering. Little, you put them down on a paper and you scraped off the H for Heyoka, or you drew it. And then they had to turn that into line art.
That's another aspect. We had a talented artist that was a friend of ours from grade school. His name was Guy Fountain. He's the one that designed our Heyoka cover, all of our logos, everything like that. So from day one, we had a professional artist.
Yeah.
Well, what's so unique is that you had this. You had what national bands, once they've got a record deal, have to go higher. You had it in your teens.
Concept art.
Yeah. Everything. You had the whole thing. Management, songs, the singer, the drummer, the bass player, the guitar player, musicianship. And I didn't mean to not play down. I didn't mean in this interview to not, or podcast rather, I call it that, to not play up the musicianship, because it was astonishing how talented that you are. And now and then. I'm not kissing your ass. That's what drew people to like you. It wasn't just the show. It was the singer, the bass player, the drummer, the guitars. The show was secondary. I was like, okay, smoke's coming up. Okay, whatever. What the hell is a guitar player doing? Like, what's Jordo doing? What is that? Yeah, flash here and there, but yeah, the look of your set. The look of the band, of course. It had the flash. It dressed. I want to talk about the attire. You said you were the first band that Sam saw that had a black. You were wearing all black at night. He said.
This is his famous quote. It's like, "I can tell you're a rocker. I can tell you're rockers because you're."
You can tell you're bad because they're all wearing black.
Yeah, I can tell you're rockers because you're dressed in black in the summer.
Yeah, and y'all would be dressed in black in the summer day.
Yeah,
That's a commitment. You're going on a hot stage like Sunset. Sunken Gardens, and you're wearing your whole thing.
Back then.
Now, is there anything that I didn't cover that you guys want me to cover, talk about? And remember, y'all are always welcome. Remember, always welcome to come in and talk about something that we did and that we can cut in, or we cut it as a separate section.
Oh yeah.
Part 2. Yeah. So just remember that.
Yeah.
But is there anything that I've not addressed, and are there any holes that I left out?
Well, you touched on
a lot of stuff.
Just about every aspect of it.
And if I had you one day, I want to take you both to lunch, because there's tons of other questions I want to ask you. But right now, when you're thinking about it, and I can get you on, I wanted to make sure we got the story.
Right on.
But is there anything I'm missing?
When it was a Randy's Rodeo, it was through the 70s. And then right after the turn of the 80s, it became Cardi's.
Yeah.
The Houston output there, for maybe a few years. And it was at that time that I had been working with Willie Nelson's stage setups, and it was through his getting into Cardi's that it came to. Somebody asked me, it's like, you know, there's got to be a system for this setup, you know. Anyway, Lenny and Ted ended up getting the contract for doing the sound, and this is where Lenny's constructing PA cabinets came in, because as you know, Cardi's had a 2-stage setup.
Yes, it did.
So he had a stack here, stack in the middle, stack here, and he would, you know, be able to pivot back and forth. And it was a great gig for them to use the PA, you know, and continue using it through.
Here's another thing that may or may not have been in our favor. Those guys, they knew about PAs. So when they'd put us to open up for these bands, you know, the standard practice of, okay, the opening band, okay, you can only do this, and then they put the limiters on.
Absolutely. Tell the audience what that means. They would limit the band to how many of those cabinets you could use, or even cut off your bass speakers entirely.
Volume, that's the limiter.
Yeah.
So they figured out how to take the limiters off, and they recalibrated them for us.
Right.
So when we came out, we would sound just as good as the other bands. And they would,
Because they
would, you know, another thing they would do, they would come out with these decibel meters. They would
Yeah.
calibrate the
we were
decibel
doing
meter.
that all the way back at Shepherd. I remember him doing that. That Shepherd, the guy was
You
like,
know, we would do stuff that,
you know, and he
you know.
set it down, and Ted would like, you know.
as an opening band, we weren't allowed to do that, and we did it anyway.
Yeah.
They call that the brick wall. So they limited it, the sound level and threshold that y'all could do. Your sound guys would cheat it.
The dB levels, yep.
Yeah. And they would blow it off and say, we can
They'd
bypass
recalibrate
it.
it. Yeah.
Recalibrate it. So you heard your opening, you're like, they sound fantastic, which is amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that shows the technical intelligence that the band had. But I really thank you. I want to get anything I can get from y'all so I can show it on the show. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Yeah, he got pictures of
you got
your
pictures
stuff. And then Gerardo, whatever you, when
some
you
of the
bring me
artifacts.
something
I'll
one
bring you
day.
a record and a CD.
Okay, good. And then any good photos you have of yourself back then? I want one.
There's a bunch of them on the record.
Okay, good. That's what I need. Perfect. But I want to thank you all for coming. I really do.
Thank you for having us. I mean,
No, I really want to
that
thank you. And
You put us on the Chris Leak.
no, this is a.
Saying your last name, right?
Yes, you are. And then the thing about it is this podcast is about you guys and the Texas. I call them the Texas icons, pioneers of our business. So y'all are definitely that.
I'm just lucky to have survived it, and
We're alive.
glad for the opportunity that I had to perform for all these years. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to come out and maybe
Tell people about it.
tell people about it. You know,
Because when you talk about Heyoka, you don't know these details. And people are like, yeah, I saw them. They were, yeah. They don't know what you went through.
I was at the point of Alpha, and we were at the point of Omega also.
There you go.
Beginning and the end.
I think I like that the best.
Yeah, and it's just been great being able to survive this with my brother Gerardo and Dito. You know.
And that's funny because that's why I was Facebooking you like over and over, like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, I was aggressive
Yeah.
because you're aggressive
good.
because you want to get the story down and have that opportunity.
Appreciate
All right.
it.
So I'm just going to stand up, let the cameras roll. We're going to stand up and stand next to each other. And he can take a photo still.
all right.
Right on.
Black Elk was gifted with the vision of the great mystery. The day of the sun has been his strength. Half of the moon shall be his right.